wanted to do a video on masculinity. This is a topic that has haunted me my entire life. But no, so masculinity is something that is a very strange topic to me. It's something I grew up not really fully understanding as a child, especially because, as a kid, I was extremely shy. I was really timid. I, was very gentle. I would never roughhouse. I wasn't like the other boys. Let's just say that. And I was also raised Mormon, so that was a very interesting dynamic because Mormonism is very old school kind of gender roles. The man is the leader and is the one responsible for the family and different stuff like that. And this is just generally a topic I really like, so I'm going to be talking about masculinity as a social structure and my own experiences with masculinity, being raised as a masculine person, even though I personally don't really feel like anything. I don't feel masculine or feminine or any of that shit. I don't really like gender stuff very much, but that leads to me being really interested in toxic masculinity and what I see as being the positive attributes of masculinity. So let's just go ahead and jump straight in. I'm also going to try to be doing some tapping throughout the video, but knowing myself, I'm going to get too into talking and most likely forget. Mostly just like it as a background noise. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started with, I guess what I would say how society views masculinity and what a quote-unquote man should be like, what they should appear like, different things like that. And to me it's very fascinating because, there's definitely a lot of people who view the genetic differences between a man and a woman, and I really don't think there is that much of a difference. There's obviously some differences, with hormones, such as testosterone and stuff like that, especially with trying to build up muscle mass. Testosterone definitely helps, but generally speaking, I don't know. It doesn't mean that women can't be super buff. Obviously, I mean, have you seen what's her name? Something Molnar. That one Olympian rugby player who is just absolutely yoked, and it's freaking awesome. I love that for her. I pretty much love anything that goes against gender norms. But back to how society views, especially with things like the current manosphere, feels like a lot of masculinity is attributed to being physically strong, very dependable, very successful, wealthy, confident, not looking weak, even the appearance of weak, kind of like this alpha male of which, ugh, being dominant is such a strange idea for me. But, and honestly, to me, like the manosphere type of shit, because that's what it is at the end of the day. It's just, it's just weird. It's all bullshit. It's like it's so over the top. It's so set in stone of how everything should be, which is dumb because life is complicated. Humans are complicated regardless of a gender, and nothing is that easy. And yeah, growing up in a society to where, you have to be strong and confident, while I was none of that, was very strange for me. I didn't even like to roughhouse at all. Like, I remember I was in Boy Scouts because I had to be, because my parents forced me to be in Boy Scouts. And every once in a while I liked it, but most of the time I really, really hated it. Especially when the boys would like roughhouse. If other boys were like more chill and just wanted to game and stuff, I was so fine with that. And honestly, that's another really interesting aspect to gender, is kind of the gatekeeping of video games and the propaganda of video games being designed mostly for boys, as they started out, and then it being a very boy-centered, I don't know, culture and experience, which then leads to kind of modern day gatekeeping and, Gamergate, and a lot of misogyny. Anyways, back to masculinity. Yeah, so growing up, I was very much like that, and when I got older, it just got really weird to me because I just saw so many different types of people and the way they lived. And I started seeing a lot of examples of, toxic masculinity. And I was also bullied a lot by other boys who I found as, very classic kind of alpha dogs and more, full of this, I'd say, toxic form of masculinity, of trying to look better than others by belittling them, just by being crude too. They were disgusting. Like, they would straight up like harass people, like physically. Like, squirrel tapping is insane. Being in the boys' locker room, hell on earth, honestly. And yeah, just a lot of shit, and it really built up a lot of resentment in me for these type of people, that being this sort of kind of alpha male toxic type of I don't know, vibe or presentation, or the way they act, and I would even say that's exclusive to men, because I've definitely seen some women or non-binaries with similar attributes that I really try to distance myself from this. But then and then I started seeing a lot, especially as I became an adult, I started seeing a lot of really good attributes of masculinity, and even masculinity. When I say masculinity, it's very strange to me, because, like, what is it? like really, what is it at the end of the day? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Because to me, it's more so just how you present yourself, and it's just a group of attributes. You know what I mean? Because it's changed throughout time. I mean, men used to wear dresses, men used to wear skirts, you know? And so I think it's not only an aesthetic thing, but it's also, like I said, a personality thing. And this is very much how I think society views it, because how I view masculinity is it's nothing but just an idea. It's nothing. It doesn't make you who you are. You are who you are regardless of how you, I don't know, present yourself. I don't know though. I don't even know if I believe that though, because there's also a lot of different caveats to that probably. Because at the end of the day, it's a social construct, and even being a part of it, like even me, like I don't consider myself a man or woman. I don't care. I don't care about gender, but I'm obviously very aware. I have a beard, and like I look like a guy. I look like a man. Like, obviously, I'm not dumb. And I'm very, like, aware of that. And, you know, I try to act accordingly within a society that works within these kind of views. But as far as, like, you know, I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe. Because obviously I'm not, I just try to be aware of my surroundings and not try to lean into those type of things. I don't know. I don't think I'm really not able to communicate that well enough, so I'm not even going to try to tackle it. But what was I trying to say? I feel like I've been kind of all over the place while talking about this. But yeah, it's a social construct. And I don't think it really means anything, but I do think a lot of people like to tie themselves to it, because think about the trans community a lot and how important it is for them to be viewed as a specific kind of gender. And I don't know, I definitely really understand it. Specifically, like trans women, I can very much relate with, because being raised as a man, or I guess as a boy, and not feeling like a boy or a man, like definitely I had a lot of gender dysphoria, a little bit of gender dysmorphia at times. I guess more like body dysmorphia later on, but it's all stuff I've kind of worked with and come to accept, and honestly not really care about, because at the end of the day, it's just like, most of my friends treat me as, you know, as who I am. They don't really treat me as like a man or like woman or whatever, you know, so it doesn't really affect me much anymore in my life. Just every once in a while, somebody will like liken me into like, oh, you're like this because you're like a man, and it's like the same vibe as like somebody saying like, oh, you're just like that because you're a Pisces or a Libra, you know, and it's like, I'm just like that because I'm a bitch. Like, come on, like, let's be honest. So anyways, yeah, I still struggle to fully understand what masculinity is and how I view it. But I've definitely seen really good qualities within specific men in my life, some of my close friends, and I think they're perfect examples of what like good masculinity is. another really interesting thing too, is that I feel like with the manosphere stuff, a lot of it is about like picking up chicks and like getting women and stuff, which is, kind of cringe. I think a lot of it's to try to build confidence as well, but I just don't think that's a good way to build confidence. I mean, I used to be really shy and timid, and now I'm a very outgoing person. And it's just, you just have to put yourself out there. You just have to try, and it sucks, and it's hard and embarrassing. I've had an unlimited amount of extremely embarrassing moments in my life, but you just gotta keep trying. You gotta keep learning. It's just trial and error. When it comes to interacting with people and learning how to be like part of a society and a normal person. But yeah, I always thought it was so funny because it's like a lot of the manosphere stuff, it's about like being macho and like putting on a facade and not being vulnerable. And it's really funny, an idea to me of like doing all that to find a partner. And then it's just like, even if you do that to find a partner, they're just gonna like that facade side of you. They're not gonna like the real you. Granted, I don't know if I've talked about the real you before, but they're just gonna mostly like this version of you that you've kind of paraded on or put on. Maybe to build your own confidence or whatever. But it's not what real confidence is. And it's just, a lot of it's just like being a piece of shit and a dirtbag. And it's like, we have too many of those. We have too many pieces of shit. We have too many dirtbags. The alpha boys are done. The alpha boys are done. It's Sigmas only. Let's go. Let's fucking go. Sigmas only. But for real, I find it very strange. Especially when I think of a good example of masculinity, I think I have a couple specific friends in mind. And they all have kind of similar attributes. And I think it's kind of like the good attributes of quote-unquote masculinity. And I think it's I do think like being reliable is definitely part of it. But I'd say more so reliable and dependable, not just like in a physical way where you're willing and there to help, but I think more so in an emotional way of also being vulnerable and being there for someone to like comfort them and to hear them out. I think that's a huge one, is being a good listener and being very like open and very like understanding. Being like patient, open, understanding to what their problems are, and being patient while you're trying to understand, because it is frustrating. It can be very, very frustrating when you're trying to understand someone and you can't, or you're trying to get someone to understand, like me earlier, like, and I can't, humans are very pathetic creatures. We have a lot of flaws, and I think being open and overlooking those flaws is such a big part of being human and accepting other humans. And I think it's an extremely important part of being, a reliable human, is that you are open to hear their side of things and to try to really understand them. You don't have to agree, but at least try to understand, And then you're able to better, connect and better comfort people and be there for them and help them how they want and need to be helped. definitely don't think you don't need to be physically strong. You don't even need to be confident, honestly. You just have to be like a good friend. Like, you gotta be there and just understanding. And I think the confidence comes in time with, honestly, just interacting with people and finding people that you really vibe and connect with. Because if you try to force a relationship that it doesn't connect easily, it's just like, what's the point, you know? It's there's so many people I've tried that with, and it just never works. You just gotta cut off. You just gotta cut them off. There's like no other way about it. You gotta find people that you really connect with. But I think a really great example of this kind of masculinity in, like, on the internet, honestly, I think there's a lot of great examples of it. I think there's some YouTubers. My first thought was Dylan Efron, because I just watched Dancing with the Stars, and he's great because, he is very masculine appearing. He's very strong. He's very physically built and hot. He is hot. So, it is kind of like, that's a bit of a cheat code. But I think the most important part of him is that he's very demure. He's very demure. He's very, like, soft-spoken. He's a good listener. He allows others to speak. He's not over-dominating in conversations and stuff like that. And honestly, he just respects women, which is like, how are we at this low of a bar to where, like, if you just respect women, like, you're already above the fucking majority? Like, that's crazy. I shouldn't say the majority, but you're above a lot. It's just a lot of D-bags. But yeah, I think, especially if you watch Dylan in interviews, just the way he talks, he has a very quiet confidence to him. I think other maybe good examples I kind of randomly thought of is, what's his name? Drew Gooden. I think he's a great example. Especially because Drew Gooden is like, he's a very normal guy. Like, he's funny. He is very funny. But all encompassing, he's a pretty, like, normal guy, he's chill. He's somebody like I would hang out with. But he's nice. He's nice, and he does have a good confidence to him. But I think this is more so the direction that I would personally love to see, the societal norm of masculinity go in. And I think it kind of is, but I don't know. This is a type of ideal, type of man, if you will, that I see as being like the ideal, or even like Curtis Connor. But Curtis Connor's also like another, like, okay, yeah, he's just super hot too, and I do think it's like, being super hot is just a cheat code. You can do anything if you're super hot. Like, you can, like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, pretty privilege is so real. That's the other thing too, is I know, like, I don't think I'm that attractive, but I used to be unattractive. Like, I used to be a little botched, a bastard. I was a nerd. Definitely loser vibes, definitely virgin ass vibes. And probably like 3 out of 10. And yeah, definitely a big difference when I got this facial hair, which really just covered. It's like a mask. Like, how in COVID, everybody was masked up, and you'd see someone and you'd go like, oh my god, they're so hot, this is crazy. Then they take the mask off and you go, oh. You go, a little different than I thought. That's what my beard is. My beard is a mask. And I think that's the main reason why I don't shave it off to present more, I don't know. But even the idea of presenting more non-binary is specifically against how I view gender, because for me it's like I just don't care. I don't want to have to go out of my way to present a specific way for other people. I'm gonna live my life how I want to live, and I'm lazy too, and this shit grows back so fast, dude. And I look ugly without it. I don't look ugly, but I do look worse. Anyways, I feel like there's something else I wanted to say about masculinity, but I think I got most of my ideas across. I definitely want to hear y'all's opinions, because it is, once again, it is such a complicated subject for me, and it's one I don't understand. And I'm very open to hearing new ideas. And it's like, I haven't done much like research or anything on it. This is just my own like personal experience with it growing up. And honestly, at some point, I just don't even think about it anymore. I just stopped caring. Because it was so much easier to stop caring about it than it was to hyper obsess and try to, I don't know, figure out what it is, what it means, and different stuff. And so I took the easy route. Sue me. I would love to also do a video on femininity as well. But I also don't feel like I have quite enough experience. Like, I would have to do an interview with somebody who like kind of knows their shit if I wanted to talk about that. Because I've never experienced that sort of, societal, like, bearing, if that makes sense. I'd also love to talk about specifically the lesbian community and the gay community, because I think they're both fascinating when it comes to gender. And I think this is mostly because, like, I was watching this one show. It was called I Kissed a Girl. It's kind of like a mini Love Island, but with just lesbians. And it was really fun. It was really fun to watch. And it really shocked me just how important gender was even within the lesbian community. Such as being, femme presenting, masc presenting, or another one I heard which blew my mind was STEM, which is, to my knowledge, I could be incorrect, but kind of almost like a gender fluid sort of presenting, to where like it's kind of non-binary, but you kind of flop in between sometimes. And to me, that makes more sense because, like they say, it's all femme presenting. It's all aesthetic. It's just, this is how I look. It doesn't change how I act or who I am. It's just appearance-based. And I think that makes a lot more sense to me, but I do find it really interesting that some people are like, I mostly like femmes, I mostly like masks and stuff. It's just really interesting to me. It makes sense, because that's how gender is, even within queerness and different things. But even the idea of having a type is like kind of strange to me. is mostly vibes based and probably more so personality based more than anything. Because I think I like varies too much. It varies too much to like pin that down. Like it's very strange to me. And also, this might be a hot take. Alright, this might be one of the hottest takes I have. I don't even think it's a hot take though. But I think the most masculine thing you can be is gay. Because it makes sense. Like, objectively speaking. Especially if you ever, like, have gone to any queer bars or clubs. Like, I've gone down to Milk Plus before, in Salt Lake City. And that is, like, one of the most masculine experiences I've ever seen. It is some of the beefiest boys I have ever seen in some of the tightest and smallest amount of clothing I've ever seen. And that is some Roman shit, that is some ancient Greece shit, that is some Viking level shit, you know what I mean? And see, that's the other thing, is even masculinity in each different civilization is completely different. Which is like how I know it is a social construct. But anyways, I think that's pretty much all I had to say about this. I think there's probably more. I definitely just really find the concept of gender to be an interesting topic. So yeah, let me know what y'all think, and I hope you all